Good evening and welcome to Beaches Watch October 6, 2021 meeting. I'm Maria Mark. I'm president of Beaches Watch and I will be hosting the meeting for this evening. Before we get to our program, I do have some brief announcements I'd like to make. As always, we are recording our meeting, which will be on our YouTube channel tomorrow at Beaches Watch 2012. We are running our renewal for 2021 membership. So early bird renewal has already started. And those who renew their membership or join between now and the end of the year will be placed in a raffle for a special basket that we will have drawn on probably in the spring. We're still debating on what to do about our yearly social. So stay tuned for that. But if we end up not having that until later in the year, we will probably have a virtual drawing for that basket. So please join or renew your membership today. It's $15 for individual, $20 for family, and $5 for student. The membership is yearly, which runs from January through December. And you can renew your membership and or make a donation online at our website, beacheswatch.com. I'd like to, at this time, recognize our elected officials. We have our Jacks Beach City Councilwoman, Sandy Golding. One of our guest panelists is City of Jacksonville, Rory Diamond, who is also our beaches representative. We have, or will have, former City Councilman Bill Gulliford. And let me see if there's any other officials who have logged on, joined us here. Let's see. I don't see anyone at this point, at this time. Sometimes we do have some officials that tune in a little bit later. We are looking at recruiting Beaches Watch board members. So if you are interested in sitting on the board, we are looking for people with the following experience: accounting and finance, membership recruitment and retention, and public relations and marketing. If you're interested in serving on the board, you can apply online at the website that is listed. It's on our Beaches Watch website as well. So you can apply online, and then you can also upload your resume or any other documentation along with that. We are reviewing interested candidates now, so please get your resume in or apply online, and the term will start in January of 2022. You do need to be a beaches resident of either Atlantic Beach, Neptune Beach, or Jacks Beach, and a member in good standing for at least 3 months. So we look forward to hopefully seeing and reviewing your application today. Other announcements: we are now getting nominations for our 2021 Give Back donation. The nomination deadline is Friday, November 5th. So we are requesting the submission of nominations for the 12th annual Beaches Watch Give Back donation. This is the organization will be awarded $500, and it recognizes a nonprofit, a registered nonprofit organization that helps enrich the lives of our beaches residents. You can submit your nomination or nominate the organization online, also on our Beaches Watch website on the online nomination. Atlantic Beach is going through a 2040 vision planning. So we're asking all of our Atlantic Beach residents and other stakeholders to imagine what your community could be at its very best in the year 2040. Let the city know your thoughts by completing the City of Atlantic Beach 2040 Vision Citizen Questionnaire by October 20th, 2021. And for more information about the city's visioning process and link to the questionnaire, it's on the coab.us website/vision. I did this already. It's very simple. It's fairly quick, so it doesn't take a lot of time. So we highly encourage all of our Atlantic Beach residents to please participate and give the city your input. Jacksonville Beach. part of their charter review, they are considering changing the height limit. So Jack's Beach will be discussing allowing the height increase to 55 feet in the central business district, conditioned on incentive criteria. So for more information about that for the Jacksonville Beach residents and business owners, please go to our website and see JB height change. Again, it's critical that your input, whether you are a resident or a business owner, give your input on this. This is a very delicate issue, if you will, and they're really looking for everyone's input. So our next meeting, save the date, is Wednesday, November 3rd. The topic will be the state of the St. Johns River. Each year, the University of North Florida and Jacksonville University, along with some other academia and other universities, update the annual St. Johns River report to give us an idea of the state of the health of the river. So our speakers will be Dr. Jerry Pinto, who's the Associate Research Scientist at the Marine Science Research Institute at Jacksonville University, and Lisa Reineman, who is our St. Johns River keeper, will also be joining him. So we'll really get an update up close about how our river is doing. So again, that's Wednesday, November 3rd. I think that's all the announcements for now. So we will go ahead and move to our topic tonight, which is giving an update about our Mayport Village, the progress and vision. And we have Alice Decker. She's the co-chair of the Mayport Waterfront Partnership. Rich Reddick, he's chair of the Mayport Waterfront Partnership Mayport Development Committee. We have Bill Gulliford, who is the Mayport Waterfront Partnership and former Jacksonville City Councilman. And we have Lori Diamond, who is our representative on the Jacksonville City Council. So we'll get to see what's been going on with Mayport. And we'll ask our panelists to give a brief introduction, who they are, how they got involved with the partnership, and then Alice Decker will begin the formal presentation. So we'll start with Alice.
Okay, thank you very much, Maria. And we thank you very much for inviting us to address Beaches Watch. It is certainly an organization at the beach that has a long and storied career of being very, very involved and being an advocate for the beaches communities. I got involved with the Mayport Waterfront Partnership back in 1999 when Ken Krevling of Urbanomics and myself were commissioned by the city of Jacksonville to do an ecotourism study. And after we completed that study and presented it to the city of Jacksonville and then also to Mayport residents, I was invited by the existing Mayport Waterfront Partnership to join, basically because I am an AICP certified urban planner. And at that time, they were looking for people with different kinds of strengths. So I have been involved since 1999. I remember going to some of the meetings early. My mom would have to babysit my daughter or carpool her to St. Paul's. And now she's 39 and has 3 children of her own and lives in Anchorage, Alaska. So I've been with the partnership for a while.
Thank you, Alice. Rich, unmute. Thank you.
Yes, I'm unmuted. I got a good start here. Rich Reddick here. I was engaged or trapped in the Mayport Waterfront Partnership environment as a result of the St. John's Ferry being threatened some time ago for closure. I was mentored by Bill Gulliford and Elaine Brown, the current mayor of Neptune Beach, and they convinced me to help with the ferry survival, which was very successful. I came to Jacksonville back in 1993 from Boston. I'm originally from Philadelphia. I was in the banking business with a name some of you may remember, Barnett, and have since moved on from there. I have been a teacher in the DUVAL County school system. I was for 5 years, something I always wanted to do. And I've been working with the partnership, I guess, since back in the ferry days. And we're very excited about the things that are going on and the support of many at Mayport right now.
Thank you, Rich. Councilman Diamond?
Sure. I see Bill Gulliford on here though, if you want to go there first.
I'm saving the best for last.
Oh, smart. All right. Very bright. Rory Diamond, I'm your Beaches City Councilman downtown Jacksonville. I got involved with this crew out in Mayport, who I love, after getting involved with the St. Johns River Ferry Protection, Save the Ferry, and all that with Lane Brown. My job is really simple. My job is to support Alice and Rich and former Councilman Gulliford and just deliver as much as humanly possible money from the city of Jacksonville to Mayport, and in many cases protect the great work that Councilman Gulliford already did before I got there.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Rory,
Thank
Rory,
you.
how about controlling that canine there?
I'm doing my best. He's really unhappy. There's people on the walkover.
Hey, I'm Bill Gulliford. Y'all are really lucky tonight because I can't get my camera to work. I got involved with Mayport Waterfront Partnership after I left office. They were kind enough to invite me to participate. My interest obviously was because of participation in some of the projects in Mayport and some of the things we did, which we'll talk in depth about shortly. And that's the down and dirty.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, we'll go ahead and start with Alice and the presentation. So if you are not presenting or speaking, if you could just mute, just so we don't have any background noise, but then please try to remember to unmute, once you're wanting to participate. Alice, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Well, welcome to Mayport Village. That's what the sign says as you go up A1A, and the Mayport has undergone a lot of different changes over the past couple of decades, as I'm sure many of our participants are aware of. Sandy, if you could go to the next slide. Right here, and I will say in advance, we are working off of both a script that we have so that we can keep ourselves into the time frame, and also a slideshow that we have, a PowerPoint slideshow that we put together when we have gone out trying to explain the Mayport story to different opportunity zone investors and people like that. So right here, I'm sure many are familiar with, this is an overview of the boundaries of Mayport Village. It is one of the most northernmost parts of Jacksonville. It is only 60 acres. That's all that is involved in Mayport. And in 1997, under Florida statutes, they intended to protect commercial fishing industry and the different waterfronts around the state. Mayport was one of the first officially designated a Florida working waterfront. And that designation was supported by both the city of Jacksonville and the city of Atlantic Beach, which is fabulous because both of those government entities came together to support and create the Waterfront Partnership. Our governing body, which is, the Mayport Waterfront Partnership, was established to, and this is directly from the Florida statute, quote, to promote interest, knowledge, and appreciation of the history and purpose of the Mayport area of Duval County, Florida, through restoration, preservation, and beautification of land and buildings of historic and educational significance. The partnership established itself to interact with both the city of Jacksonville, the city of Atlantic Beach, through monthly meetings. Both of these two governments supported the Mayport Waterfront Partnership initially by assigning planning professionals to attend the meetings. And the support of these two cannot be underestimated. It's just been wonderful. And we know who we can call to when we have a problem or have an issue or just need some direction in terms of which way to go next. We could go to our next slide, Sandy. During the next 20 years, after the formation of the partnership, the city of Jacksonville, Duval County invested over $12 million in infrastructure improvement, including water and sewer systems and institution of the Mayport Road zoning overlay. The latter required that, and it currently exists now, that the Mayport Waterfront Partnership review and pre-approve any real estate development projects to assure that they meet the standards established in the overlay. And some of you may be familiar, there are a couple of areas of Jacksonville that have their own overlay. Springfield, Riverside, Avondale, and Mayport is one of those as well. Okay, I'm now going to let Rich, and we can go to our next slide, Sandy. Rich Reddick is going to explain where we have sort of morphed into next.
Rich, you're on mute.
Darn, it was a good opening too. Thanks, Alice. I had mentioned early on in my introduction that I was a teacher in the Duval County school system after my corporate career, and I taught history, a couple of history items about Mayport, and more than you may like. But in particular, those that enjoyed the Jazz Festival this year, you may remember that the Jazz Festival actually started out in the Mayport area years ago. I didn't know that until just a couple of years ago, but that's an incredible feat. Of course, that was before the Navy base had fences or any of the other things. With the support of City of Jacksonville and the City of Atlantic Beach, Mayport Village continued to operate successfully after being designated as a working waterfront, and its commercial business, fishing business, actually grew. But then in 2008, the Jacksonville Port Authority purchased a 7-acre parcel on the waterfront as the future site of a cruise ship terminal. Jacksport cleared that purchased land of nearly all buildings and removed the docks from the waterfront. As you can imagine, the acreage there was unusable as a working waterfront after that devastation of the property and docks. The commercial fishing fleet therefore had to find new home ports, and the fleet went from 34 boats to somewhere around 14 to 12 today. That's a huge impact on the economy of Mayport, and without overstating, the Mayport waterfront and the impact on Mayport's commercial fishing economy was devastating and has continued to be for some period of time. What we're hoping to talk to you about today is how that all reverses and moves along. But following the defeat of the cruise terminal, the waterfront acreage acquired remained unused and unkempt for a good period of time. There were attempts to do something on the waterfront by both the City of Jacksonville and Jacksport. They issued 2 RFPs in 2004, one in 2014, one in 2016, a request for proposal for a developer or someone to come in and take a look at the property. And both of those requests for proposal, and I did look it up, came up with 0 interest.
And we could just go to the next slide now, Sandy, while Rich continues.
That'd be great, thank you. So what happens beyond here now? One other thing that the Mayport and the Mayport Waterfront Partnership did was back in 2014, they attempted to find another way to salvage the village and create some economic growth. And that was looking at the Community Reinvestment Act, which I am not going to bore anybody with the CRA federal statutes, but in fact, it gave villages like Mayport an opportunity to implement low-cost financing for construction, housing, and other things. Unfortunately, that product didn't really work out in spite of the hard work by the community. So since the request for proposal by Jacksport and the City of Jacksonville, the Jacksport Authority, through the influence of our city councilman at that point in time, Bill Gulliford, agreed to transfer the parcels, the 7-acre parcels, to the City of Jacksonville. So whether you know it or not now, the City of Jacksonville is the owner of that 7-acre waterfront property. And they are critical in the future planning for development of that waterfront. Thus, that's when Rory had mentioned that his job was to work with us. It's us to work with him as well, and with the City of Jacksonville, to get everything done we can. He's been supportive, and I know he will continue to be. But it's a road that we have a rather tough road we still have to travel. But hopefully, with tonight's presentation, you'll hear some much more positive items. So, according to the agreement, though, with the City of Jacksonville and Jacksport, any profits or proceeds from any transaction, be it a lease or a rental, a lease, rental, or sale would have to be shared with Jacksport. One other interesting development occurred as a result of the cruise terminal, shall we just call it fiasco, for lack of a better word. As a result of the threat of a cruise terminal to the Navy's airstrip at Mayport Naval Station, a good partner of the village, the Navy began to be a bit worried about what possibly could be built on that waterfront property. So in 2016, the state of Florida, who would obviously have a considerable influence in this effort and also interest in the land and the waterfront, teamed up and worked with the United States government and the naval, I'm sure, attorneys to protect the Mayport's airstrip. And by doing that, they instituted restrictive covenants on heights, which was just mentioned about Jack's Beach recently by Maria. The maximum height of a building on the waterfront is 52 feet. So you can see in terms of development on the waterfront, that would you're not going to see high-rise buildings going up of any sort. Once you cross A1A across to the south side of A1A, so across from the waterfront, the height is restricted to 35 feet there. And so the Navy is quite happy with their protection, but they also have some protection on the lighting in that area too. Well, with COJ, with City of Jacksonville owning the Mayport waterfront, they retained, and they have made many efforts to try to help with the village here. So we don't want to intimate that there was anything that people haven't been trying to work on things, but the City of Jacksonville retained Haskell Engineering, who came up with 2 proposals for development on the waterfront. The latest development, which was delivered in 2020, did involve Mayport Waterfront Partnership and many others in the community in the planning and creating the proposal. But to this date, unfortunately, that particular planning proposal, although we've had it in hand, we haven't had an effort to really work it because we ran into this crazy thing that keeps us from being together and doing virtual presentations.
Okay, if we can move to slide 6 now.
Oh, thank you, yes. And I will, or Alice, you can move this on to our next speaker.
Okay, and now we're going to ask Bill Gulliford to tell us a little bit about the ferry and what the critical link it is. And then also he's going to share with us the plans and the progress of OSearch.
Okay, thank you, Alice. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, good, because I'm hearing static on my end of it. Well, thank you all. Let's start talking about the ferry first. And before I start, please don't take any of my comments as being self-serving, but the only way I can tell the story of the City of Jacksonville's participation in Mayport is to share my past involvement while I was on the Jacksonville City Council. And I think most of the people that have lived at the beach sometime realize that we came close to losing the ferry, because what happened was that Jacksport had an agreement with the City of Jacksonville after the state dumped the ferry on us, that Jacksport would operate it for 5 years. We got to the end of the 5 years, they had put a lot of money in the operation. They really didn't care about the ferry. And so they were ready to give it back to Jacksonville, which they contractually could do. And so suddenly it looked like we may not have a ferry anymore. And so there was an incredible outpouring of emotion from people at the beaches, especially about, we're going to lose the ferry. We got to do something. Some of you may remember the meeting we had at Fletcher High School in the auditorium, and attendance was superb. And so I was able to convince my colleagues to go ahead and cover the shortfall financially for a time. And at the same time, that legislation that I introduced included the creation of a ferry commission to operate it. And I was smart enough to get John Crescenbenny as the chairman, who did an incredible job. And he lured people, and others lured people like Rich, Rich was the numbers guy, and they operated it like a business, controlled it like a business, and they did substantially reduce the operating costs of the ferry while the commission was running it. And of course, I think all of you remember the level of participation. We had ambassadors, we had events that were put on to raise money for the ferry. It was an incredible community effort. As you know, JTA has since taken it over. They've done an incredible job. There's plans for a second ferry to be added soon. They've spent millions of dollars on improvements and have been a great citizen of the Mayport community. And I think they really deserve an awful lot of accolades for what they have stepped up and done. And they're very happy operating the ferry. And actually, the ferry is the lowest loser of all the services they have. The bus service is awful, a real drain, and it operates in a negative and has done so for some years. The next big challenge that Rich mentioned was the 7-acre riverfront parcel that was owned by Jacksport that had caused such conflict and consternation over the years with the proposed cruise terminal. After about 7 months of negotiation with Jacksport, even some begging on my part, and with a lot of help from Jacksport CEO Eric Green, they agreed to transfer the ownership of the property to the city. I think my suggested provision that Rich touched on about splitting 50-50 any gains from the property in the future got them over the top, and the board members that I met with seemed to like that idea. And remember something that's interesting about that. They still had $12 million worth of debt on that property, and they transferred the property to the city of Jacksonville free and clear. It makes it a lot easier with a free and clear property compared to if they'd also transferred the debt associated with it. As many of you may know, the city has now committed funding for docks along the river for commercial and recreational fishing. And later on, if he wishes to, I think Rory might want to make a comment about that. And it is moving along. There's money being allocated in the CIP to do that. Shortly after the property transfer, I was made aware of OSearch and its connection with Jacksonville University. I met with Quentin White at JU and suggested the city might lease some of the 7 acres, the part that had the old house turned office and the warehouse, to JU and OSearch, and from there they can conduct their oceanic research on sharks. Chris Fisher, the head of OSearch, was all in, and I introduced the legislation to lease it to them at a nominal amount, and my colleagues agreed. With the help of my successor, Roy, the city has made a solid commitment to build a dock for their research vessel, and that construction should start very soon. Hopefully, there'll be improvements to the buildings and maybe even new buildings to house their research and offer public display of their work. Why is OSearch significant? They have had incredible success with generating public awareness of their work. Jacksonville and Mayport can greatly benefit from that awareness. And Chris Fisher, the OSearch CEO, is a visionary committed to marine research. I don't think he's going to stop with sharks. Can you imagine the draw if we're able to get displays of their work located in Mayport? What about tours of their vessel when it's in port? They have had 4 billion media impressions on their webpage, Facebook page, and their cell phone app. Let me say that again. They have had 4 billion media impressions. I encourage you to go to www.osearch.org and look around. It's an incredible website and has lots of hits daily. What about education? Not only their connection with JU, but also maybe UNF and the Marine Science Center in Mayport used by Duval County school kids could all be part of an overreaching and over-enveloping effort towards marine science in the area. Lastly, I want to quickly touch on one item, and that's the Mayport Community Center. It's been a rather dilapidated double wide at the boat ramp for years. I was able to get money for a new community center in the CIP before I left office, and final construction is underway across the street from the present location and expected to be completed next spring. It will be a great benefit for Mayport, and we will be able to open up the boat ramp parking even more. And for those of you that might happen to use that boat ramp, you know what a problem parking and access is. It's the most active boat ramp in the entire county by far. I can certainly see a high utilization for that facility in the future as Mayport grows. And it's been my great pleasure to be involved with the growth and development of Mayport. And I know there is much more on the horizon. In fact, I'm not maybe quite as concerned about the development of the remaining 7 acres, because I think if we can get some of these things like OSearch completed, the community center, and some of the private building we're seeing going on, I think there are going to be people clamoring to come to want to develop that property and in whole, or maybe even just in parcels. So that's pretty much all I have to offer. But I have to say that the city of Jacksonville throughout this process has been very supportive of the efforts to bring Mayport back to be a viable focal point in the beaches area and in the community as a whole. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. We appreciate it. Certainly your interest and enthusiasm is, unbridled. Sandy, if you could move to the next slide, and we have we can quickly go through some of these. These are 2 private buildings that are being built, mixed use. They are going to be 1,500 square feet on the lower level, and on the top is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. And a private developer and a member of our partnership, Steve Altman, is the builder of both these places. And we're very excited because it was a real leap of faith that he made to be one of the first person to privately engage and privately spend dollars to create something. One of them is located on the corner of Ocean and Ferris, and the other one is located on across from Osage, and the other one's located on the corner of Ocean and Henry. Okay, if we could go to that next slide, and we'll see that Mayport is in itself is a community worth keeping. And I'll let Rich describe now quickly some of the assets of Mayport that we're trying to capitalize on as we go forth looking for funds to do some development there.
Thank you, Alice. When you think about something that's worth keeping, worth developing, you think about what are the assets that that particular effort can be supported, can support and build on. In Mayport, let me just go through some of the things. We've divided the assets in Mayport in terms of natural assets, of historical educational assets, and of economic and recreational assets. And on the natural asset side, there's nothing more natural than shrimp. And what do we call shrimp? We call it Mayport shrimp. It's a huge asset to this community. The people's access to the St. Johns River is a huge access, a natural asset. The short ingress and egress to the Atlantic Ocean is proven to be a great asset just by virtue of the growth in our port and all other boating up and down the St. Johns River. We've got an aquaculture environment to support this commercial fishing industry, and we have research in that area that helps our commercial fishing business. We've got recreational fishing, beaches, city, state, and national parks. They're all just natural resources. One of the other things that is fairly new as a natural resort, the road has always been there, but in the past couple of years, through the efforts of a group, a scenic highway has been dedicated from the St. John, or from the line at Ponte Vedra, between Ponte Vedra and Jacksonville Beach, where JTB is, all the way up to Fernandina Beach. That scenic highway is called A1A Ocean Island Trails. And it is its main purpose is to promote the highway, which would include Mayport. On the historical and educational side, just a couple of items. There's many of them, but we all know, I hope, about the King House and its haunted nature on Ocean Street in Mayport. And that we could have a ball with in terms of tourism or visitors. We've got the First Presbyterian Church there that's been there for quite a while. At the ferry landing, once the construction there is finished, the Merchant Marine Memorial will be returned there. Nothing could be bigger than the Mayport Naval Station as an asset to Mayport. And along with that, the U.S. Coast Guard Station right there at the entry to Mayport Village. We've got the Marine Science Research Institute, OSEARCH there, St. Johns River Ferry, the St. Johns River Lighthouse, dating back quite a few years, all that present opportunities and assets to be worked with in Mayport. Lastly, but not leastly, is on the economic side, we need to think about the Safe Harbor Fish Processing Plant, the Safe Harbor Seafood Market, very attractive assets in the community. The commercial shrimp fishing fleet, the commercial charter boats that operate out of Mayport, Safe Harbor and Singleton's restaurants, often visited and well-known. Morningstar Marina, a dry dock that operates out of the community, and the boat ramp in Mayport, which is just jammed weekend after weekend and event after event there. And the home of the St. Johns River Pilots. I don't know how many people know that, but those that bring the ships up and back down the river, home port in at Mayport, and do their pilot work there. And Alice has already mentioned the new rental properties and commercial office space. So am I still on, Alice?
Sandy, well, if you could just do our next slide, and we can just show everybody these are the drawing. This is a drawing of the $2.3 million community center that Bill Gullifer told us about, that he was instrumental in getting into the capital improvement program from city. And it is under construction. Alden White we'll have some pictures of these things at the end of the show, but yes, so this is under construction, and as Bill said, should be done in spring.
Great.
So now we can continue on and go to our next slide.
Alice, if I can just remind our audience that if you have any questions or comments, please use the chat box for those who are actually on a laptop or a tablet for our panel. And you can just find the chat box down at the bottom of the screen and just type in whatever comments or questions you may have. Go ahead, Alice. Thank you.
Okay, sure. And now we have worked through that there are key issues to be considered in the development of Mayport. And Rich has defined a few of those for us.
Yeah, and let me, I left left out an asset that I should never have left out. We have been blessed with two great city council people that work with us here. Bill's record is known by many, and Rory's is building well. He has really supported us as we've tried to do things here at Mayport, and he's gotten us inside the city activities and really introduced us to people that we need to know to get things done. On the unmet needs side, we have clearly we need dockage put in, and as Bill mentioned and Rory has made sure in the CIP funding, there is $2.5 million this year for dockage at Mayport. Last year there was a similar amount, and that's going to building docks that should start any day now in front of the Osage property. So there'll be Osage docks and then more commercial docks coming down between the Safe Harbor property and Osage. We have a history that deserves preservation and exposure. We really need to get at that. And that some people think of that as tourism, some think of others, but nonetheless, I think we have a commitment in the Waterfront Partnership documents to preserve and expose to locals and visitors alike. You know, Mayport is a natural, as a crossroad to State Road A1A between St. Augustine and Fernandina Beach. Its connector is the St. Johns River, has been talked about already. And I will too echo comments about Jacksonville Transportation Authority and Nat Ford. They have done a phenomenal job as not only a caretaker, but a builder of that asset and making it quite valuable. That ferry connects the city, state, and federal parks. So these are all things that should be considered in a development. And of course, the ocean, river, intercoastal waterways, the estuaries, all of them are assets that we should be thinking about as we develop. So what do we need, though, really to move forward? We need the docks, and we got them underway. It just takes time right now. We need to renovate. There's a huge warehouse that's part of the property that Osage operates on. And while they have great plans, we're trying to work with them and perhaps even find some grants that will help them re-establish that warehouse and operate it as a center for research, innovation, and education. And there are dreams of bringing the Duval County students to see what happens in that particular area, and hopefully that happens. With the transfer of Jacksport's property, we've got the increased involvement of the city, and that we need to be supportive of that and to continue to bring that on. We've got to get some help in the planning for that land usage. And of course, there's always funding issues, but we will work through those. I know we'll get there. I think that's it. I'm going to talk. I do want to talk about one big risk, though, if that's the time to do it, Alice. Are we there?
Sure. Our time is getting limited, but sure, go ahead.
Well, quickly, I'm going to state it very simply, and everybody will, I don't have to explain it. Safe Harbor Seafood Processing and Market is on the market. It's for sale, and it has been for almost a year now. And that is a critical aspect of a working waterfront. So I just wanted to get that out. So we are aware of that and watching that and working to see if we can help find someone in there. Alice, I think it's back to you.
Okay, and Sandy, if you could just go through the next slide, very quickly, because they're basically just a diagram of the variety of different organizations that are working toward Mayport. So, and I can actually just go through them real quickly. There's the Mayport Village Civic Association, which is Mayport of Neighbors. There's the Mayport Waterfront Partnership. There's the Mayport Village CDC. We have the Friends of the Ferry that are very committed and very involved. We have the Mayport Waterfront Partnership. We have Mayport Village Working Waterfront LLC that was established a couple of years ago to seek out private grants if that's possible. And basically we are I feel like that we're close to a perfect storm of things going on. The city has involved itself in the docks, in Osage, and in the community center. We have private investment going on. There are other parcels that are up for sale. I currently work as a realtor with Berkshire Hathaway, and I see that certain properties are coming on board and being sold as the generations change. So if we could leave you with a couple of just thoughts at the end of our presentation, it would be one that, and that would be our second to the last slide, Sandy. John F. Kennedy said that a rising tide lifts all boats. And that is, that really is basically where we are in terms of Mayport. And as we think of Mayport in relation to the other 3 beaches communities, our last slide, we were thinking about it the other day, and we really would like people to begin thinking of Mayport as the top of the beaches. And so our last slide shows that we are part of the beaches of Duval County, because we have Mayport at the very tip, and then we have Atlantic Beach and Neptune Beach and Jacksonville Beach, all amazing communities, all different communities. And as we go forward, we'd like all of our participants to be engaged and join us as a partnership and stay in tune with what's going on in Mayport, because it is a work in progress. Rory, would you like to wind us up?
No, all I want to say is, it's better to be lucky than good. And I was lucky enough to follow Bill Gulliford, who did an absolute huge lift. I mean, you just can't give him enough credit for all the different things he had to do. But let me say this, it's hard to get 18 other members of the Jacksonville City Council and the mayor excited about something out at the beaches. He did it over and over and over again. And so I'm excited to see what happens next. And we can talk about the economic development stuff and anything else anyone wants to talk about.
Okay, excellent. Does that conclude the formal presentation?
That does. We'll see if anybody has any questions for any of us, Maria. We'd be glad to, as you can see, we can go off script and talk about Mayport on a variety of different issues, a variety of different subjects. So please.
Well, when it comes to Mayport, it obviously it's so dynamic, and it is such a great asset. And it is something that I know Bill has been passionate for many, many years, and as well as you, Alice, and Rich, and everyone. And it has certainly had its challenges, but it sounds like you guys are working towards hopefully finding that sweet spot for what we're really wanting Mayport to be, and working on that shared vision. So I want to thank all of you for sharing sharing this information and your passion for this. And we do have a comment and a question. Thanks to Councilman, whoops, something happened here in my chat bar. Thanks to Councilman Diamond and of course Bill Gulliford. While very glad to now have access to a COJ grant writer, how can Mayport Village position itself to achieve a closer collaboration with the city of Jacksonville to realize its full potential, vision, and streamline its revitalization? And I will just have that open to all.
Yeah, can I take that one? I want to tell a quick story. I was the mayor of Atlantic Beach many years ago. My hair wasn't gray at that point, Maria. But anyway, I was mayor of Atlantic Beach. We had a meeting. Ish Brandt was the mayor of Neptune Beach, and our city manager, the Mortons, who owned Ragtime at the time, and that was the only restaurant in town center. And I and the fellow that owned Sundog sat down for, that's right, Sundog was there, but those are the two, and said, what can we do with town center? Or what can we do with this intersection? It wasn't called town center yet, but we threw some things around and did some things, and it sort of started the ball rolling. And the rest of that story. And look at Beach's Town Center today and what's been accomplished and what's been achieved there. I'm not as critically concerned about the development as maybe others might be. I'm not convinced that we have really determined solidly how we want to see it develop. And a case in point would be, I'm on the Florida Housing Finance Corporation board in Tallahassee, and we administer the affordable housing funds throughout and tax credits throughout the state of Florida. There is a fund that's available that's designated solely for agricultural workers and commercial fishermen housing, affordable housing. you know, we may decide to take some small part of that property and set up some type of transitional housing for Osage workers or commercial fishermen that are coming through, transitory fishermen that are coming through Mayport or other things. And should that be part of it? I don't know, but it's certainly, those funds have been unused. Basically, they're sitting there available. Is that an opportunity? So I think that what we're going to see, I think first of all, we've got to get the docks in, both the Osage dock and the commercial and recreational docks. I think that will give great impetus for the development too. So I'm not as concerned, because I've seen once that ball starts rolling, it just sort of gets a life of its own and takes off. Those of you that have been around the beach a long time remember the depressed city of Jacksonville Beach Center, the downtown, if you want to call it that area, and how long it was blighted and how long it sat there. And then all of a sudden it took off. So I think that we're right on the verge of seeing Mayport in the next 5 years go to a development that we will all be proud of. And then everybody's going to be complaining about the lack of parking out there like they are in town center right now.
Mm-hmm. Bill, I think someone in the audience wants to know, what's the name of that fund again? The affordable housing?
It's not necessarily a fund. It's a designated account available for that specific purpose. And we take applications. So there's an application process to secure those kinds of funds. But like I said, they're virtually unused for commercial fishermen. And it's been designated by the legislature and set aside by the legislature. So, you know, they're available. Is that something that would be beneficial to Mayport? Maybe so. I'm thinking, but boy, when you got money just sitting there, you start wondering, hey, is there an opportunity here? So I can put anyone in touch with staff over in Tallahassee and give more specific details on that.
Okay, thank you.
If I could add one thing, Maria.
Sure, Rory. Mhm.
Hey, just really fast. One, Bill, we actually just passed law that makes it easier to spot zone workforce housing. So you could be the first one to use it out in Mayport. I would love to see that. But I think just as importantly is you see these massive economic incentives being spent on downtown Jacksonville, $100 million yesterday, $26 million for the Laura Street Trio. These are big dollars. These are revenue grants. But once we get private developers who are more interested in Mayport, that's going to be our moment, I think, to take it to the next level, which is to get a whole bunch of City of Jacksonville money invested out there alongside a private developer. And you'll see what's happening downtown right now. There's no reason that 0.1% of that money couldn't be used in Mayport to do great work.
So to that point, Rory, what do you, I mean, and this is to the entire panel, but I mean, what do you think are, or is some of the deterrents of being able to capture those public-private partnerships?
Well, you need the private part. We're still looking for some big developers who want to go and invest in down there. And Rich and Allison and Bill can give you the most updated version of who's been looking around. But until you get one of those people to join in, it's just the public part.
Yeah, so the private part, obviously, yeah, is the key piece. And, you know, I know that they had gone through visioning, there was renditions, there was, you know, all some really great visioning projects that had happened and come out of it, but it kind of just stalled at that point. So
well, Maria, if I might, and you're absolutely correct. It did seem that we were treading water for a little while. And so the LLC took it upon themselves, as has the development committee, to go after and seek private investment. And the overriding goal is that private investment that matches our goals, that is in keeping with the scale of Mayport, that's keeping with the, you know, ever since 1999, the first visioning I went to, and then again in 2005 and 2009 and 2015, the goals for the residents of Mayport has never changed. They wanted a vibrant working waterfront, public access to the waterfront, and that it would be economically viable. And certainly the shrimping industry has changed, and there's room for some portion of the shrimping industry there to go forward. But it's going to be a lot of things that are going to be working for Mayport, not just the shrimping industry. So we have been in conversation with a couple of opportunity zone investors, and their vision does in fact line up exactly with our vision. And if we can encourage them to continue to do their due diligence, we may see a private partner or two coming on board before too long. And, you know, Rory's been very instrumental in that, in helping us and meeting with these folks. And as I could certainly echo again, having Rory follow Bill Gulliford is like the best thing that could have happened to Mayport, because the vision is the same, and we didn't have to just totally re-educate this fellow to the goals and the scale and the wants of Mayport. His heart is there, which is so helpful.
Well, if I can add something else about I think we need to be maybe a little better prepared for development. Let me raise this issue, and I don't know how many people are aware of it, but the state of Florida controls A1A. Isn't it ironic that they're so concerned about A1A, but they were ready to split A1A or put a block up by turning the ferry over to the city? But that's another story. Anyway, I think that there needs to be consideration for the city of Jacksonville assuming A1, the ownership of A1A from the state. And I'll tell you why. We are probably going to need to put in diagonal parking on one side of Ocean through the village of Mayport. And if you leave the control of that in the hands of the state, the consequences down the road could be significant, because they could turn around and tell you to do anything they wanted to, including eliminate it should they decide to widen the road or do whatever else they might deem to be appropriate. And I think things like that need to be thought a little bit about them before we get into full-blown development, because parking, everybody that lives in Atlantic Beach and Neptune Beach knows that is the key issue right now, particularly around town center. That's the hair puller. So we need to think hard and long about some of these issues before we proceed to finalize any type of development. And I encourage everyone involved to think hard about those things before and take some kind of action. I mean, if that's the appropriate thing, we need to get Rory to talk to the city about it. John Pappas, I've talked to John Pappas a couple of years ago about it, and John didn't seem to have any problem with it. But I think before we go developing, it's something we probably should consider have done. So just a word.
Absolutely.
Well, even taking it one step further, Bill, just the access to Mayport, because you just have the 2-lane road, and which is prone to flooding. I mean, has there been discussion as far as what to do with that road? I mean, obviously widening it or doing something so that if you're anticipating developing Mayport Village and having those numbers of visitors and tourists and just the citizens who live there and that sort of thing, how is that?
Maria, I think that the state has been looking at that stretch of road as to maybe improving it or raising it or whatever, but I want to leave that part, see us leave that part of the road in the hands of the state. Let the state address that in the future, because it's going to be very expensive. I'm just talking about from the start of Mayport Village up to the ferry. That's what I don't think you'll ever see that 4-laned. And I think even the part you're talking about, 4-laning will be a very, very expensive proposition. I don't know if environmentally you could get it through. That's another issue there.
Exactly.
So
you have the Navy, but borders it right there.
yeah, exactly. And you've driven it before. You see the significant problems that would go along with widening it and elevating it more. And as you mentioned, flooding, yeah, that's an issue. So
Well, I sort of think that's something that, should, because it's so important, because if you can't access it, then, you're doing all this.
Well, that was a question was asked for the people that are proposing a cruise terminal too. Can you imagine that road once the ship let the passengers off all at the same time? So yeah, I mean, it's an issue. It will continue to be an issue. I think that there'll be some resolution to the best of the ability, but I think it's always going to be a limitation of some form or fashion. I mean,
Maria,
let me say.
Maria, I see that we have a question about where is the lighthouse?
Yep.
No.
And I would just say currently the lighthouse is on Navy property, but we have spoken a couple of times to the Navy, and they, I think, probably in the future would be interested in moving the lighthouse to the historical section of the village itself. A study was done years ago on what that would cost, but it has been brought up in the last couple of years. Do you think that would be something that could happen in the future? And they did not say no.
I've got a copy of that.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got a copy of that study, Alice.
Right.
And it was updated, an estimate that I got a couple of years ago to $1 million. And when we talked to the Navy
Right.
Public Works about it, they said, well, that's not as bad as we thought it might be. So I think down the road, there's a possibility that we might be able to get that done. And it would be a great asset to the village to have that thing moved.
I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah,
One other comment on some of the questions, Maria, if I can here. The question came up about from someone in the audience about how do you get development? And one of the things that we have to realize about Mayport is Mayport has not been open to development in past years. And for good reason. So let's make sure that we understand that as well. But in a short story, what happened just recently is there is an entrepreneur who's opening something across the river on Heckscher Drive that should be opened up in Mayport. He had never even thought about Mayport and is well beyond on the project at this point in time. Yet the main parcel of their business is over on this side, on the Mayport side and beach side of their business is fundamentally there.
Yeah.
And anyway, and that problem we're working on, this is part of it right here, working with Beaches Watch and getting some message out about the openness to development that's within our overlay and it's within our, in the areas of education, commercial fishing, ecotourism, and history and culture. So anyway.
I might just add quickly, Maria, that we have sent 6 or 7 different links with all the information and the studies that are most current for Mayport. And all of your participants will be able to have access to those because our goal was to get everybody on the same page, sort of in 1 hour of your time. And we can't thank you enough for giving us the opportunity.
Yes, thank you, Marie.
Well, thank you guys, everyone. It was very informative. You know, Mayport is always like, it's our neighbor, and we want it to be successful because we love Mayport and it deserves that. Let's see. It's like we're at 7:58. So any quick closing comments from any of the panelists, and then we're going to wrap up the meeting.
Yeah, one quick comment. I'd like to see this done live as soon as everybody's hair grows back and we are back, back with live meetings. I think it'd be really beneficial to repeat this to a live audience, if possible.
I couldn't agree with you more, Bill. And hopefully when we are at that point, you'll have even better news to share, all of you. So thank all of you guys for all of your efforts and for your time and your commitment to Mayport. And we really appreciate it. And, our viewers, our audience, get involved. I mean, Mayport is our neighbor. It's a vital neighbor. It's valuable, and we really want it to be successful. So thank you guys again. We're going to go ahead and wrap up with please take our short meeting survey at the conclusion of this meeting. And then, of course, the recorded meeting will be on our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, and you can also find the links I think that Alice is referring to on our website at beacheswatch.com. Please put our November meeting on your calendar. It's a state of the St. Johns River. We want to know the health of the St. Johns River, where we fish, we recreate. It's our lifeline. And so we'll have give an update on that. So thank you for joining us, everyone. And thank you again, panelists. We really appreciate your time. And so good evening and have a great rest of your week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Roy.